Probably like most of you, I'm used to thinking about gender equality and the goal of gender equality as synonymous with the advancement of women and girls. But it's now clear that there are many boys and men who have fallen behind, and that we have to be able to think about gender inequality in both directions.
Is modern feminism to blame for Donald Trump 2.0? Maybe, but not in the way that it sounds, and I want to have that conversation. What's up, you guys? This is Kevin Ortega-Rojas. I am a podcaster, content creator, and host. I am on Instagram at Here's Why Kevin. You should follow me there. There I post tons of news updates, stories that relate to Black, Latino, LGBTQ plus people, and other marginalized groups. I post a lot of updates there. I'm also on Substack, Here's Why Kevin.substack.com. You can go and follow me there. I upload podcasts and written pieces there quite frequently, and I would love to see you there, but that is enough of an intro though. I want to talk about the way that the manosphere and Republicans have been able to take a legitimate issue, I think, and contort it in a way that benefits them. So unless you've been living under a rock, you may know that this past election cycle, which thankfully I was not on YouTube for, Donald Trump won the election, and the exit polling that we see so far, which, by the way, exit polling really doesn't become very clear until we're much more removed from an election. So right now we really only have a limited amount of information, but exit polling that we do have shows that this was one of the largest gender gaps in modern political history, and we expected a gender gap to be the deciding factor of this election, but we thought that it would happen in the reverse. We really expected women to come out for Kamala Harris in droves and to get her to the Oval.
As Kamala Harris campaigned to be America's first female president,
when we fight, we win!
With the support of some very powerful women behind her,
We're not going back.
the buzz leading up to the election was often about the female vote.
Women will be the beacon in this election.
Young women in particular have the ability to be determinative in this election.
But men, too, as it turned out, had some big motivations.
A lot of men were just sick of being told that they're terrible and there's nothing they can do. And that's, I think, the huge mistake that Democrats made, or one of many.
We completely overlooked the way that Donald Trump and the Republican Party took control of the narrative when it comes to gender inequality, and really won because of the bro vote. Donald Trump won because of young men, and polls like to credit young Latino men also because they were one of the groups that leaned further into Trump than they had in previous elections. But I have tons of thoughts on that I'll explore in another video. But I do think that it's interesting, and I do think that it is worth analyzing, because the issue that Donald Trump and the Republican Party are bringing up is a legitimate issue, but we are letting them win. I'll tell you why. The thing that made me wake up this morning and want to have this conversation was seeing so many people shocked by the celebrities, particularly the Black male celebrities who are supporting Donald Trump. And last night, Snoop Dogg performed at Donald Trump's pre-inauguration crypto ball. So this is the first ever of its kind crypto ball that was held in DC. And Snoop Dogg and Rick Ross and Soulja Boy performed there. And a lot of people want to give them room, cut them some slack and say maybe they didn't know what it was or they just really like crypto. No, the flyer for this event was very clearly pre-inauguration crypto ball to honor President Donald J. Trump, the first ever crypto president, which is not a thing. At the event, Donald Trump was there, Speaker Mike Johnson was there, a bunch of Republican Party members were there, and a ton of their donors. Tickets for this event started at $5,000 and went up to $1 million. And Donald Trump at the event unveiled this crypto coin meme that you can now buy online because he's a grifter and he won't stop even though he's now in the White House again. Doesn't matter. But I was shocked that other people were shocked by people like Snoop Dogg and Rick Ross legitimizing Donald Trump and leaning into him. One of the things that I was thinking about was the fact that Rick Ross and Snoop Dogg and Nelly, who is going to be performing at Trump's post-inauguration celebration, these men were at one point at the top of the game in an industry that is currently being dominated by women. And I'm not sure if that is specifically the reason why they are leaning toward Donald. Actually, I'm pretty sure that that's not the reason why they're leaning toward Donald Trump. But it's something that I couldn't help but notice. Right now, hip hop and rap is run by women. You have Megan Thee Stallion, you have Nicki Minaj, you have Doja Cat, Cardi B, all of these women who are absolutely killing it in an industry that was once completely run by men that did not give them the room. I think it's interesting that men who are from an industry that they once dominated are now leaning toward a candidate who is a misogynist because their industry is now also being run by women. The real reason why I'm not surprised that Snoop Dogg and Nelly and Rick Ross and Soulja Boy are leaning into conservatism, really just leaning into Donald Trump and everything that comes with that and the manosphere, is because they have their own businesses, they have their own goals, and their target audience is young men. And data shows us that young men are leaning heavily into conservatism, are letting themselves, be pulled in by the manosphere, are supporting people like Donald Trump. So it doesn't surprise me that these men would look around at the young men that they want to support their businesses, that these young men that they want to pull in, and say, okay, well, I'm going to follow the money. I'm going to go where these, young kids are going. And that is inevitably Donald Trump. So I wasn't surprised to see them there. So this morning I woke up and I started looking into articles and books and interviews on this subject, as much of it as I could find. And someone that I came across was Richard Reeves, who is an author. He wrote a book called Of Boys and Men, where he discusses the way that the fight for gender equality has somehow left men and boys behind. And he made some really incredible points in his several interviews and his TED Talk that I watched. I plan on reading his book. I haven't yet because, like I said, I'm exploring this idea in real time. But he spoke about the way that the fight for gender equality has left men and boys behind. And our political climate and our social climate has sort of made it to where if we acknowledge the fact that men and boys have issues that deserve recognition and solution and acknowledgement, that it somehow signals to other people that we are misogynist or anti-feminist. And I think that is a really great point, because the truth is that the issues that Donald Trump and Joe Rogan and everyone else, the issues that they're talking about, the issues that they are exploiting are legitimate issues. But we, on the other side, on the other aisle, have done a really poor job at acknowledging those issues and finding solutions and creating space to have those conversations. So we've allowed them to take control of the narrative, which is really my point here. Democrats need to acknowledge the issues that men and boys are facing and come up with solutions. And they can't be the solutions that we are presenting them in 2024, because they don't work. It just doesn't. It was so bad. So the main thing that was being discussed is the neglected male perspective in modern feminism. There are two key components here that I think are the most critical. The first being education. Statistically, there is a clear trend in America that men and boys are falling behind women and girls in education across multiple levels, and the gap begins early and it widens as students progress through the American education system. All right, when we're talking about high school, for the graduating class of 2021, girls had a high school graduation rate of 89.1% compared to boys at 82.9%, a difference of 6.2 percentage points. College enrollment in 2023, 65.3% of female high school graduates enrolled in college compared to 57.6% for young men. And then college completion, again, it continues to widen. For students entering four-year institutions in 2016, the 6-year graduation rate was 68% for women and 61% for men. The gender gap in four-year graduation rates is even larger at 11 percentage points. And then overall education attainment. By 2020, 41% of women aged 25 to 34 had a bachelor's degree compared to 32% of men. This represents a complete reversal from 1970, when men led women by nearly 10 points in bachelor degree attainment. The education gender gap starts early, with boys falling behind in English and math test scores as early as the 3rd grade. and the gap persists and widens through the education journey, resulting in significant differences in college enrollment and completion. One of the issues that Reeves highlighted in his book was there is a decreasing amount of men in education. Male teachers only make up 23% of teachers in America, which is a stark difference from the 70s and 80s when men made up most education positions. And research does show that there is evidence suggesting that male teachers can have a positive impact on boys' educational outcomes. A study by education researcher Thomas D. estimates that the gender gap in middle school English performance would decrease by about a third if half of English teachers were men. Another study found that the gender gap in math performance would be halved in 9th grade if classes were taught by male teachers. I do think that it is critically important that young boys are able to learn from men. One of the things that Reeves highlighted was that, male teachers understand that boys learn differently and that male teachers also teach differently. And he said that he could recall one of his teachers in middle school or high school as having a more impactful classroom setting because he allowed the kids to move more and made the lessons a little bit more interactive. And I was like, yeah, that's totally true. One of my teachers, his name was Mr. Morales, and he was my history teacher. He was also one of my mentors in high school. And I remember vividly, lessons where we were standing up or moving our desks across the classroom to have debates and just learning in a very different setting than we did in other teachers' classrooms. And I had never considered that before. And then another issue, of course, that we need to talk about when it comes to men is mental health. Nearly 32% of men aged 30 to 34 suffered from some mental health issues in 2023. Approximately 6 million American men suffer from depression each year. Men are 3.4 to 4 times more likely to take their life than women. And this isn't just an American issue. Men account for 74 to 80% of all in the UK, Canada, and the US, which I think is a really big issue. I think in general, men are suffering mentally because we have a changing society where we are leveling the playing field. And so, if we focus on education, for example, the education system was built by men. And for so long, we held young girls back. We held girls back from succeeding in school, from being in STEM. And now that we have leveled the playing field, it has exposed, the natural, the natural imbalances. That's not the word I'm looking for, but I'll stick with it. Between young girls and men. And girls are outperforming men, which means that they are completing school and earning degrees and being able to attain jobs where they can make more money. And then if we think back to the past, the jobs that men used to have, more manufacturing jobs, are no longer here. So if we are not guiding young men to complete school, if we are not adapting our system so that young boys can learn and stay in school and graduate college and earn a degree so that they can get a high-skilled job, then it does feel like we are abandoning men. That is the truth. I mean, and acknowledging that is not saying that everything is fair for women or that there aren't gender inequalities that still exist. There absolutely are, but that doesn't mean that we should ignore the issues that boys and men face. So the solution here is that we need more men teaching young boys, and we also need more men working in mental health. We need more psychiatrists and therapists who are men who can speak to other men and help them. Men report feeling lonely, feeling unsupported. They are making less money. They are more likely to be depressed. They are more likely to end their own lives. And so what happens is exactly what happened in 2024. And all of this ties into the election because Democrats became so fixated on pitting Kamala Harris, a woman, and reproductive rights and trans rights, which are all issues that I support and all issues that are very important to me. But we became really fixated on pushing these issues against Donald Trump, the misogynist. Again, it's very clear why we did that, but we did not discuss the issues that he was discussing. And I'm working that thought out in real time. Donald Trump was constantly talking about the issues that men face, bringing back jobs that he can't bring back and won't bring back, but that's not the point. He was making promises that people wanted to hear. We did not respond to the things that he was saying. We spoke about the issues that we thought were more important. And I think that was the issue. Kamala Harris and the Democrats focused on reproductive rights and gender equality and trans rights, and that is all. Well, no, she did not focus on trans rights. She completely messed that up. But we focused on these issues, and we did not respond to the legitimate issues that the other side was highlighting. And what Reeves said in his book is that if you do not create a solution, you leave the door open for bad faith actors to take advantage of that. And that is what happened. That is why we have Musk and now Zuckerberg and Joe Rogan and the Flagrant podcast and all these places that Donald Trump was visiting, right? He was going to all these places that young men tune into, all these podcasts and YouTube shows and live streamers and Twitchers and whoever. He was going to those places and speaking to the issues that he was talking about, the issues that do affect him, the issues that do actually exist, but he was placing the blame where it doesn't belong. Because the issues that young men and boys are facing is not because women are excelling. It is not feminism's fault that men and boys are falling behind in school and are suffering mentally and are not earning enough and are not earning degrees. It is not feminism's fault, but feminism is exposing this issue, and we need to be able to highlight it and talk about it. And my biggest gripe with the election, which I think is why I wasn't uploading videos toward the end of 2024, is because I just was so frustrated with the way that things were going. My biggest gripe with the election is that we constantly let the other side control the narrative. And I think that Democrats and progressives and just people who are pro-equality and pro-progress and people who are on the opposite side of Donald Trump, we need to spend time legitimizing these issues, hearing people out, and speaking to those concerns in a way that does not blame them. Another issue with the Democrats that I had was when we did speak to men, we didn't do it properly. Like, Kamala Harris sent men out to speak for her, and we had Joe Biden, who in all honesty does not inspire a lot of hope right now, and then we had Barack Obama, who in a viral video was in a room full of young black men and was basically shaming them and was saying, this is toxic masculinity, and why don't you want to vote for a woman, and why won't you support a woman, instead of asking, what is it that you're concerned about? What is it that you're worried about? We didn't legitimize these issues. So I do think that there's a real through line between modern feminism, the real issues that men are facing, and Donald Trump's electoral win. And so I do think that we need to have a more balanced approach to gender equality. I do think that we need to start making changes to these systems. And I was watching Kimberly Nicole Foster, also known as For Harriet, on here, who I think is just, I say it all the time, I think is just one of the most brilliant people on the face of this earth. And I reference her all the time. She did a video that you should watch. It was a live stream called The Bro Vote. And in it, she starts to ask, whose responsibility is it to create new expectations for men? And she made a great point. It is not on women. It is not. I don't think it's on women to correct men, to guide them in the right direction. I think that men who understand the reality on both sides, who want to see women get fair opportunities but don't want to leave other men behind or blame other men, I think that it is our responsibility to focus on these issues, to talk about this issue, to find solutions, to create community, to enter, the education workforce, and to really start guiding men in a different direction. Because otherwise what we're doing is we are leaving young men vulnerable to the manosphere and to this toxic environment that I just think doesn't support or help any of us. So yeah, those are my thoughts. These were random musings. This was kind of a rant, but I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Do you think that modern feminism and the issues that men are facing are related to Donald Trump's electoral win? Why or why not? Please tell me in the comments. And if you aren't, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be back with regular uploads in February. And go follow me on Instagram at Here's Why Kevin. I would love to have you. Beyonce's mom follows me. I feel like people really, that does something. People like that. So yeah, Tina Knowles follows me. Go follow me. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Love you. Bye.